Good evening, YouTube. Well, today is a very special day and a very special evening. My TARDIS has arrived and I've been very busy equipping it and preparing it, both as a disguised garden shed, the Shed of Serenity, which is its other identity, but also as a TARDIS. So it took me a little while to get the fusion cells up to power, but we're all set. Under cover of dusk, in about an hour, I shall be leaving, and you will witness my departure back to November 1st, 1934. Now, some of you must be thinking, time travel, how does it work? I need some tips. Tips, my dear friends. I'm happy to offer them. By the way, I'm drinking here, on honour of the occasion, an iced tea with a little bit of Bombay gin in it. Cheers. And of course, I'm preparing myself for the concert that Annette Hanshaw is giving this evening. Well, this evening, November 1st, 1934. What pipe would you take? I thought about it. I'm taking one of my channel pipes, this lovely Andreas Witchy pipe, which is just beautiful. Had to be a Prince pipe, of course. Why not? And a Tampa befitting with the time, where they certainly would have heard of Sherlock Holmes and watched maybe one or two of the early films. So I think this will be a conversation piece. It's always good if you're going to a reception to have conversation pieces. What would you have taken? Lighter? Almost took my brass Sippo, but 34 is a little early. I just hope there's no churches near where I'm going, This is what you have to do to escape these bells. Go about 85 years back in time. This is a lovely, about 1910 lighter, very, very reliable fuel lighter, and would fit with that time. I don't want to arouse too much marvel and curiosity, although I do want to have some conversation pieces. And what would you smoke going back then? This was very difficult. Which tobacco? Thought of all the Prince Albert and all of the common codger blends back then, but I couldn't resist it. I'm taking some Crooner because it has a very lovely room note. That was one of the major factors in my decision. And I've got a feeling that the reception will have some interesting guests, so it could fit in many different ways. But I won't take this tin, of course. I will take this nice little tobacco container, which is actually one even from the 1700s, an heirloom in my family. By the way, my disguise name is Dr. Redcoat, a physician of sorts. And this one, actually, you can light it with the sunlight, another conversation piece perhaps to amuse the ladies. Well, the biggest tip I can give to anyone who's preparing a time trip is to prepare and do a lot of research. And fortunately today we are and can access a great many things that were much more difficult 20-30 years ago. Do you like old newspapers? I do. I quite often muse through them. This is the Connecticut Campus newspaper from October 23rd, quite near to the date that I'm landing, 1934 of course. And of course it's already advertised that Miss Hanshaw will be singing at the Camel Caravan radio show in New York. There was some doubt whether November 1st she would be appearing, but I checked that on the Brooklyn Union Gazette. That actually only appeared for a few years, but they had a similar ad which was on November 1st confirming that she did appear at that particular showing, because many singers at the time were appearing on these radio shows. Well, what else do you need when you go back? You have to research, of course, about names and news of the time, which is why I've read quite a few newspapers like this. Know that Franklin Delano Roosevelt is the president, and that LaGuardia is the mayor of New York City. A few other names that I am aware of. Best steakhouse at that time was Delmonico's, Oscar Delmonico's. That's one of the oldest names. In fact, the steak was actually named the Delmonico steak. So if anything happens after the reception, might be going there. I've also planned a little time to visit the Wilkie Tobacconist on Madison Avenue and 71st, because I'd like to pick up something there. I'll tell you about that when I get back. Well, there's all kinds of other little factoids that I've learned, like Lehman was the governor of New York State, and a few other things that were happening at the time. There was a blizzard in February, which people were still talking about later on in the year, and so on. And there were several visits of the RMS Olympic, the sister ship of the Titanic, and the only one which actually lived a full life and was scrapped at the end in the 1960s, and was a famous passenger ship at that time. And of course what you have to prepare for and think about is, where am I going to land? First I had some basement plans of the Empire State Building, which would have been nice and discreet, but people might have asked, you know, how did you get here? When did you come across? And so forth. So I decided I'm going to land on the Olympic a day before in the cargo hold, and this is my ticket, and you'll see it's 1934, and of course I need a ticket to the show for November 1st, 1934. Yeah, it wasn't easy, but I managed to get some originals. Well, I know what you're saying now is, what are you going to do about money? Well, I do have a coin collection. I have a few of these Morgan dollars. This one from 1893. That's old enough. Did you know $1 back then got you at least $20 worth of goods? In today's world, you could have a slap-up dinner for $5 and a hotel for about the same, or $10 or $15 or $20 at one of the very best hotels. So I'll be okay. Yes, I have some silver certificates. 1935, actually the nearest I could get, but I got some of those. Enough to get by. I'm only going to be there a day or two, if that. And like James Bond in his little suitcase, he had 50 gold sovereigns. Well, coming from Switzerland, I have 50 gold Frenelies. Of course, from the late 1800s, early 1900s. Don't want to raise any eyebrows when I go to the bank and change them for money. So, we talked last time, didn't we, about what would you take as an insurance, and I decided against any kind of weaponry. You could always get in a tight fix, but have to realise that anything you do in that timeline will change it. We can discuss about timelines, whether or not that's a problem, but let's err on the safe side. Well, what Doctor Who, what would he take with him? A sonic screwdriver, of course, was always plenty enough. Did you know and notice that this looks mysteriously like a sonic screwdriver? Well, it is one actually, just disguised as a pipe reamer. But, believe what you will. So we've done the landing, currency, preparation, information, the tickets we need, accoutrement for a concert, and the reception afterwards, which is going to be very interesting. All of the radio stars and some of the popular stage actors in New York City, 1934. You might think who was around then and might be at that party. I'm really curious. And watch. Of course, I'm not taking a wristwatch. No. I thought it most appropriate to take my Illinois Railway watch. One of the pride of my collection. You have seen it in my videos about my various watches, and just a few pocket watches. And this lovely gold-plated example is the one I'll be taking with me, with of course my fob and gold watch chain, of course, belongs to it, doesn't it? After all, someone who gets invited to a party like that, everyone thinks you're one of the British aristocracy. I have to polish up my British accent and refine it, of course, because they'll all expect that, a bit like Noel Coward, something like that, Well, that's about it. I think I'll do one or two little tests, rev the engines, and wait for a little bit more darkness to come, and then I'll be off. And I'll give you a full report. Somehow it must appear that I was there. You'll see. I'll find a way. Well, as they say, time waits for no man. I must depart. One last sip, one last puff, and pack my bag, and I'm gone. Almost forgot.
feeling I'm falling, falling for nobody else but you. You caught my eye, and I got a feeling I'm falling. Show me the ring and I'll jump right through. I used to travel single, we chance to mingle now I'm a single over you. Hey, Mr. Paulson, stand by, for I got a feeling I'm falling, falling for nobody else but you. That's all.